Hello, people of New Zealand. I am delighted to be involved with this conference and this event. I think it's going to be spectacular, or if it's at the end of the day, I hope this has already been spectacular. Amanda asked me to do an Ignite, and I will attempt to do that. Unfortunately, all of my computer equipment pretty much is broken, so we're in a position where I'm going to be clicking through a PowerPoint presentation in the background that you probably can't see, and attempting to thread some narrative around that. What I want to talk about, and I will try and keep it to 5 minutes-ish, is coaching, because it's such a big thing and people are so excited and so passionate about it, and there's so much subject matter expertise going into it, but I'm slightly concerned that maybe we're overcooking it, or we're talking about it in a way that isn't entirely helpful for the people that we actually want to help. Which is a bit of an issue. So it's going to seem a bit clunky in the background, I apologise for that, but the benefit of it being an unconference is that I'm hoping you're not expecting anything too slick, although if Doug Shaw does an incredibly slick section, then that's fine, I'll just get angry with Doug. But starting to kick off, delighted to be involved, so here we go. So I want to talk to you about coaching, and as is the case with any Ignite, there's not really enough time to explore it in depth, so what I don't want you to do is think that I'm taking up a kind of contrary stance. All I'm trying to do is just kind of explore this in a bit more depth. So it's not about conflict, this is just about saying, right, okay, can we step back from it a bit and see where the best place to get to is. So part of this is that I grew up in the country over here, so surrounded by sheep and pigs and all manner of things that are like sheep and pigs, and it was a very simple life. And when I went to the big city that is London and heard people talking about coaching, it kind of struck me that anyone else would just kind of call those helpful conversations. The conversations that have taken place for thousands and thousands of years. So Edgar Schein defines the most important thing that leaders do as being creating and managing culture. And I think if you're doing that and you see yourself as a leader of culture, you don't need to label things, you need to understand them. And my concern is that coaching is becoming slightly over-labelled. Coaching, I think, is actually what's a really ancient conversation. We've been having these conversations for thousands of years. Every time two people sit down, they try and help each other and explore different things. And the world's actually been built around them. These basic, helpful conversations between one person and another, where you try and help them learn and you try and help them get to a better place. But we've never needed to learn it, kind of label it in that fashion before. So if you think about all the things that have been created, all of the inventions through history, from the pyramids, everything of that ilk, we've never needed to call that coaching. It still all got done. We didn't have the grow model, we didn't call it gestalt. It just kind of was that thing where I sit down with you and I help. And I think there's something really powerful about not labelling it and actually just calling it a helpful conversation. So we've kind of had this evolution of man, where we've managed to go from, very primitive beings to where we are now. And I'm just wondering whether we're kind of reaching a point where we're getting too technical and we're overcomplicating things, and we're losing actually the heart of what we're attempting to do, which is to help businesses and people get better. And part of the reason we lose that is this focus on return on investment. It's absolute obsession with the fact that we have to evidence what we've done, otherwise it hasn't made a difference. Whereas in fact, all you end up doing, and I'm going to let a secret out of the bag, is you end up engineering that concept of return on investment, and you will only do things that you can really justify. And whilst that seems simple on the face of it, there's so much in this life that makes a difference that can't be quantified in that simple way. So, we're told that we have to speak the language of business, that what we have to do is kind of to be credible professionals. We have to talk in numbers, talk in data, and understand all the latest jargon. And there's an appeal to that, and there's a belief that actually that's what makes us credible as professionals. But I actually think that the gap that needs to be filled in is not about the type of language that we use, to a degree, but it's actually just about the credibility of what we deliver. And actually there's a really interesting dynamic here, which is that I think a lot of the things that we think sound credible and execs will happily have conversations about in terms of succession planning, talent planning, coaching, data analytics, predictive analytics, they sound good because they sound all grown up and they sound all business-like, but in fact they're not as credible as just doing the simple things well, and I think we're losing some focus on that. Because we like to think that coaching is common ground. We like to think that if an executive is saying, yes, that's great, you have my support to bring in a coaching culture, that we know exactly what they mean because we're using the same words. But I actually think if you talk to most normal people not involved in our profession about coaching, they think of sports coaching. They think about that far more directive model that we actually tend to resist. Because there's very much a focus when you speak to HR professionals or experienced coaches about the power of questions. And I'm not knocking the power of questions. What I am saying is that actually we're even talking about the same things. Is what's being requested by the business actually what we're providing? Whether it's needed or not is a separate issue. But I think coaching is actually so broad a term as to almost be unhelpful. So there's a lovely phrase, if you label me, you negate me, which is from Kierkegaard. And there's that concept that as soon as you start slapping labels on things, you actually remove some of the power. And for me, those kind of helpful conversations that we all understand almost intuitively, as soon as you turn that into a technical thing, as soon as you start closing it down and you say it needs to look like this and it needs to be structured like this, you lose the ability to just stick to some of that helpful intent. Because what's real to real people is what matters in business. What makes a difference for the actual people working in the business rather than what you write on a business plan or a people plan or an HR plan, however you come to define it, is what matters at the end of the day. At the end of the year, it doesn't really matter if you've delivered all your strategic HR objectives. It matters whether the business has got better and the people within it have got better. Because every person that you can improve, every person you can help, is a source of competitive advantage. So Shine talks about help being a few different things. It's helpful if you do something for someone, it's something that they can't see. And I think that's a central tenet of coaching, is to try and help people understand some of the things that they don't realise. So that's a helpful thing. He also talks about being something that they can't do. And I think if you can spend your time in an organisation helping people see the things that they can't, and helping people do the stuff that they can't, and getting them to a position where they've learned to do it for themselves, well, actually that probably is coaching. But I don't think you need to put that label on it to get there. Because I think a great culture, a really strong culture where people help each other, will naturally evolve over time to be a coaching culture. I don't think you aim to be a coaching culture. I think you aim to have a helpful culture, and within that you will have those fantastic conversations where people are pulling together. So in summary, three things, kind of three rules for a great culture. Be happy, be awesome, and help other people to be happy and awesome. It's not any more complicated than that. There are shades within it, but actually I think if you start with the big stuff rather than refining it and labelling it, well, in fact I think that's a strength in itself. So thanks for listening. I'm sorry if I've overrun for time, and I'm really sorry about the kind of technical constraints. I hope you all have a great day. If you ever want to get in touch with me, you want to talk about it, you want to argue, you want to tell me I'm a fool, and actually I know I've oversimplified some of this, then please get in touch. But otherwise, have a fantastic event, and thanks for letting me take up some of your time. Bye bye.